Micronutrients are typically framed as guardians of health, small but mighty compounds that support metabolism, immune function, and cellular repair. But in the biochemical shadows of this wholesome narrative, a more complex reality emerges. When certain micronutrients are consumed in excess, their metabolites can quietly transform from helpful to harmful. And nowhere is this transformation more consequential than in the lining of your blood vessels, where these metabolic byproducts may help set the stage for a slow-burning catastrophe: atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis is not just a buildup of cholesterol, it's a chronic inflammatory disease of the arterial wall. At its core lies a breakdown in the function of the endothelium, the thin layer of cells that lines your blood vessels and regulates vascular tone, clotting, and immune response. When this layer becomes dysfunctional, stiff, sticky, or inflamed, it opens the door to a chain reaction that eventually produces the plaques responsible for heart attacks and strokes. Recent research has revealed that certain micronutrient metabolites, formed during normal nutrient processing, can aggravate this endothelial dysfunction, acting as chemical irritants in the very system they were meant to support. One of the most revealing examples is 4-PY, for pyridone 3-carboxamide 1-S-D ribonucleoside, a metabolite of niacin, vitamin B3. Under normal conditions, niacin plays essential roles in forming NAD and NADP, critical coenzymes in energy metabolism and DNA repair. But when niacin is consumed in pharmacological doses, as it often is in cholesterol-lowering therapy or via heavily fortified diets, the body struggles to process the excess. The liver metabolizes it, producing 4-PY as a downstream byproduct. And this is where the trouble begins. 4-PY doesn't just float harmlessly through the bloodstream. It interacts directly with endothelial cells, where it begins to inhibit key enzymes, particularly PRP1, poly-ADP-ribose polymerase 1. PRP1 is involved in DNA repair and regulating oxidative stress responses. When 4-PY suppresses this enzyme, cells lose some of their ability to manage damage and respond appropriately to oxidative insults. At the same time, 4-PY appears to promote the expression of vascular adhesion molecules like VCM1 and ICM1, proteins that make endothelial surfaces sticky to white blood cells. These molecules aren't just biomarkers of inflammation, they're active participants in the disease process. They recruit immune cells to the endothelium, setting up residence in the vascular wall and triggering a localized immune response. The presence of these immune cells leads to increased oxidative stress, release of cytokines, and uptake of modified lipoproteins, which collectively form the fatty streaks that begin the atherosclerotic cascade. Over time, smooth muscle cells migrate into the area, collagen is deposited, and the plaque begins to mature, often silently. The vessel becomes narrower, stiffer, and more vulnerable to rupture. If this occurs in a coronary artery or the carotid, the result can be sudden and fatal. What makes this even more insidious is that 4-PY doesn't need to operate at high concentrations to exert damage. Because the endothelium is exquisitely sensitive to changes in redox balance and inflammatory signals, even modest elevations of harmful metabolites, particularly when sustained over time, can begin nudging the system toward dysfunction. And niacin isn't the only nutrient capable of producing such outcomes. Excess intake of vitamin B6 and folic acid may also produce pro-inflammatory intermediates or shift metabolic pathways in ways that generate low-grade, chronic stress on the vascular lining. Even antioxidants like vitamin E, when taken in isolation and at high doses, can form oxidized byproducts that trigger similar effects. All of this highlights a sobering reality. Micronutrients are not inherently safe simply because they're essential. The line between nourishment and harm is often a matter of dose, context, and biochemical individuality. What your body doesn't need, it doesn't always discard passively. It may convert it, react to it, or store it in forms that promote long-term damage. This isn't an argument against nutrients, it's a warning against the false security of excess. In the case of 4-PY and other metabolites, what begins as a protective nutrient, niacin, becomes a pro-inflammatory molecule under metabolic strain. And rather than shielding your arteries, it may slowly help inflame, degrade, and destabilize them from the inside out. In the broader scope of cardiovascular health, this challenges the simplistic view of supplementation as insurance. It urges a more nuanced understanding of how nutrients interact with systems already under pressure from inflammation, insulin resistance, or oxidative load. It reminds us that the body's chemistry is dynamic, responsive, and far more sensitive than we often assume. And it suggests, once again, that health is rarely achieved through isolated excess. It's earned through balance, through whole food nourishment, and through a respectful relationship with our own biology, one that avoids trying to brute force the body into better function with pharmacological megadoses of what were once just vitamins.